I've been asked to introduce Professor Minghua Zhang. Just a quick introduction of myself for those of you who don't know me. I am Kevin Reed, one of the newer faculty here in the atmospheric side. So Minghua has been at Stony Brook for nearly 30 years after completing his PhD at the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Institute of Atmospheric Physics in 1987. He came to Stony Brook and to SoMAS as a postdoctoral fellow with the title of visiting scholar. So luckily for us, in 1990 he became a permanent scholar and went through the track of assistant all the way up to full professor. Through the early 2000s, he was the director of the Institute of Planetary Atmospheres, Terrestrial and Planetary Atmospheres, before he became our dean in 2010 through 2016, as most of us know. So a lot of the early career faculty in this room get to thank Minghua for his leadership during that time, in which there was a lot of hiring of early career faculty, as well as his leadership in kind of bringing in the sustainability program to where it is now, a few years later, as well as a lot of work in fundraising, which everybody knows is a big part of a dean's job, and the creation of a few endowed chairs that have occurred. So with that, Minghua is going to talk to us today about the path towards open access publications.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for being here. I'm trying not to stand behind the podium, which I used to do, try to learn. So when Lely asked me to talk about the risk at this event, I was really not sure what to talk about. Then I thought we do have risks. Do science that excites me, but without pushing the result to the end, that is the final step. So I'm going to share with you two things. One is about the landscape of scholarly publications, in particular open access publication, and then second, how to publish your work from an insider's view, because I'm editor-in-chief of the American Geophysical Union, JGR Atmospheres, so I want to share some information with you. About open access publications, so what is OA publication? It's journal articles available online to the reader without subscription, without a fee, without login, and this is really great. In the literature, there is a gold road that is through publication in journals. Another is the so-called green road, papers made available by self-archiving them. There are challenges. Even so, everyone loves open access. The question is who pays for it. And there are real costs to the publishers if you want to maintain a high-quality journal. Typically, you need to go through several rounds of peer review processes, quality control, long-term stewardship. And from the early talks, we see the danger of fake science. If you do not maintain, say, high standards, they could be articles motivated by other purposes. So the costs are real, and the subscribers also used to pay for the bulk of the publication costs. But if it's open access, then the subscribers won't need to subscribe to the journal, and that would cut off the revenue for the publishers. And I'm going to come back to this later. So the trend, open access journals started around the year 2002. In this year, there were like 35 open access journals where papers are posted, everybody can access. And these journals, of course, need to meet certain criteria. Then you can see by the year 2012, it's about 8,000. This is similar to the number of traditional journals registered in the Journal of Citation report. So the growth is tremendous, but there are some journals that are really not very good. And just like the stock market, when you see the growth continues, one day it's going to stop. So there are lots of success stories, but there are also issues with some of these open access journals. So the latest is this number. Say starting from 2002, the ending point in the earlier slide, it still grows, but then the number has been coming down, around still 8,000 journals. So the question you might ask is why there is this dip and what is going to happen going forward. There are two main reasons from what I see. One is the so-called predatory open access journals with very poor or bad review process, quality control, or some of the publishers were profit-driven. And so the University of Colorado has a librarian. His name is Jeffrey Beer. He maintained a list of open access journals that's suspected as predatory. And so soon after he started this, he faced tons of lawsuits because he was sued by many of these publishers. Then Nature Publications did an exercise, commissioned a study. The study was by a group in the University of Warsaw. They created a fictitious scientist named Dr. Sust. And Sust in Polish word, it's a fraud. So Dr. Sust created a web profile, sent letters to samples of journals, and this study was published in Nature early this year, asking to be an editor of that journal. For the journals listed in Dr. Beer's website versus the traditional journals versus the open access journals judged to be good by Dr. Beer. And this is the result. So there are three categories of journals. One category is the predatory titles listed by Jeffrey Beer. Another is open access journal not on his list. And then the traditional journals. Each sample has 120 titles. The red means the fake person, Dr. Seuss, was accepted as an editor for that journal. The blue means no response. And for many of the journals in this category, this person was either accepted as editor or there were no response. And later it was found that some of the journals, these journals even don't have a person to respond accepting like the Dr. Seuss as an editor. While the traditional journals registered in this group, there was no response, but it's not because of the manpower, because these have reputable editorial boards, and then 40% wrote back for rejection. So this is one of the reasons why it came down. But more importantly, it's the emergence of new publication models for traditional journals with three modes. One is hybrid open access, that is, some articles are open access, others are not. If the authors agree to pay a little bit more, then your article would be made open access. And depending on your research funding, if you have, say, extra funding, then typically people would choose open access. It's most likely around $1,000, $500, $1,000, $1,500. So this is a mainstream model. Then there is also delayed open access. This has no fee. That is, articles will be open access after 2 years. So the American Geophysical Union, the American Meteorological Society, and many other societies now make the articles openly available after 2 years. So whenever we get a chance, we always push for open access. So some of the responses are because of these discussions. Then a very new development, and the Pinhead paper recently accepted and was informed about this option, is even so you don't pay the open access publication fee, the paper can be made as view-only open access. This is very recent, just like some of the books by Google. You cannot download, you cannot copy, but Google Xerox that. You can read a page. And so I thought this is really a good way to make all articles at least available for people who really need it. So for these modes, the subscribers would still subscribe to the journals because the researchers would like to have the papers in their computers, would like to copy, say, cut some figures and quote them. And so this model most likely will continue, and the divide between the open access and the traditional publications would become narrow and narrow. So the good thing is we will be able to see articles that are published right away. I think many of you agree that when you need to read an article, you are asked to pay like 38 euros for this article. It gets very frustrated. Right? Now I think this is going to change. So this is about open access and how many people have published in open access journal. Nature Publication did a survey in 2014. Now I believe it's more, that 60% of science authors have published in open access journals or selected open access publications. The number is smaller for humanity and social science, but I think given the changing in the publication landscape, this number will increase. So now, how to publicize your work? We talked about communicating to the public, but we also have things to do communicating our results to our peers. As Christine said earlier, when you go to a conference, there are so many posters. How can your work be remembered? Likewise, when you publish papers these days, there are so many papers. How do you get your results across? And again, there are things that could be frustrating, like you did the work, other people did the work after that, but when you go to a conference, that work was cited, your work is not. And of course, the person has a responsibility, but you probably also could do better to let your work known by others. So as editor, actually we try to think that you can try to make a larger impact of your paper in 3 stages. One is when you write your paper, another is after your paper is accepted, and then after your paper is published. Now I realize that all of these would take time, so it's kind of impossible for you to spend so much time. Just like in the early slide, I really want to do the exciting things of science, not necessarily to spend time. But for certain papers, you probably want to pay more attention and spend more time to do this. So while write your paper, the title keywords, use 2 to 4 keywords within the first 65 characters. That's the advice I got. Then keywords. Now I did not really pay much attention to keywords the journals require, so you tend to pick up a few to meet the requirements. Then later I was told that the search engines look for these keywords. These days when people look for a paper, they do not necessarily log into or go to the web page of the American Geophysical Union. They type in Google, the papers pop up. And for the search engines to get your paper, these 2 would be important. And so we all have things to learn and to do better to get your paper up. Then when you need people to read your paper, the first thing is, of course, the abstract. When people get to that, suppose you have 1 page of abstract, people would lose interest and look for the second title. So as editor-in-chief of JGR Atmosphere, we receive like over 1,600 papers per year. So I get to read lots of abstracts because all these papers come through my desk. And you can see the many varieties of abstracts people write. Typically when the abstract is not very good, then the paper, more than the others, is not well organized or well written. So spend the time, and it's really 4 questions. What did you do? Why do you do this research? What did you do? What's the key conclusion, and how valuable is this to your specific field? So an abstract does not need to be long, and this would get you the attention. Then after your paper is accepted, if you really think that this paper should be widely communicated, you like the publicity, request editor highlights. The editors now have many means to promote papers. So you can make a request, make a social media highlight request, request consideration of cover page, coordinate with media relations, because people in media relations are much better than us in terms of using social media, both in the university and at the publisher. And for the journal, like I work with, this is the journal I talked about. We publish 2 issues every month. So each issue there is a print version and online version. But on the website you can see there are highlights. When people go to the journal page, you may wonder why some papers got highlighted, others not. The editors pick this up, and like each cover I pick up, which the editorial office, the staff assistants would recommend some, then I would pick up a cover. So I do receive requests from some authors asking their paper figure to their asking figures in their paper to be on the cover, and if the justification is where the figure is good, then I do select that. So think of these ways to promote your paper. If your paper is on the cover page, then there is less excuse for the other person not to know your work when they make their presentations. And then the journal, just like the university page, on its website there is a carousel of the papers that cycle through the web, and you can make a same request. Then after the paper is published, I was told that people should update your web link, because depending on how many links to the paper, the search engine is going to function differently. And so that's something I was not aware of. There is an advice from AGU that kudos would be very useful. I don't know even today what kudos is. I don't know how many of it do. Is there anyone here who knows kudos?
It's like an applause, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. It's a platform to show, to check, say, who is quoting your paper, you reached what audience, so I need to explore. I put a question mark. Make Wikipedia links. I look at Wikipedia quite frequently. I never know that you can put your paper there. Has anybody done like editing for Wikipedia page? Not. So we certainly can explore. When I was preparing this talk yesterday, I typed cloud climate interaction, and a web page popped up. There was actually a reference to one of my papers, but there is no paper at the reference list, just quoted inside. So I needed to figure out how to make that link. And these are the things that I was not aware of before. Then there is a whole different set of things that we need to pay attention regarding communicating with the public. Christine and Howie and David all talked away, so I'm just going to show you a few words we were told, and we were trained by the American Geophysical Union a little bit. So they listed some words, and I realized that I used these words a lot in my publications. I work on model all the time, and so to the public, model is like a fashion model. I use say carbon cycle, and cycle is like riding a bicycle. I use driver a lot, the driver of climate change driving factor, and that's like an automobile. So we all have things to learn. So and this is like when we go to an audience, we try to talk a lot describing what we know, but you may get the reaction, or you sound like was wow, wow, wow. Okay, so that's what I have. Thank you. Yes, Mary.
Since I'm an older generation, a lot of my publications are before the transfer to electronic journals, right? So Right now, I think if you go to journals before 1994 and JGR, you have to pay for them. Even if you subscribe to the journal, even if you paid for the, total access, full JGR journals at the time, they have rescinded my access to all those papers. Is that still true, or has AGU become really interested in open access?
Yeah,
journals
yeah.
beyond
So
1990?
the good thing I can tell you is that a year ago, JGR changed the policy to make all papers available
So
after
back-
2
back-
years.
so
Back, yes,
okay.
from 1894
All right, well, that's
to
good.
the present. Yeah, Kirk.
So AGU is a different sort of publisher, I think, than the big scientific publishers like Elsevier or Springer. And can you comment on them? I think they have a different policy on open access. It's more expensive for one thing. I'm not sure they bought into the 2-year
Yes.
or anything. What-
Yes. So AGU partnered with a publisher called Wiley.
Yeah, Wiley.
Yeah, and Wiley has been really very cooperative regarding open access. But there are other big publishers like Springer, Elsevier, that trying to resist this open access. However, just like Amazon online selling, Walmart and Best Buy eventually need to follow, and that's what's happening with these journals. They are doing hybrid too. Like the Nature new model of allowing to view single page by single page, that's from Springer. They realized the trend. Yes.
Related to this hybrid model, don't you think there's a huge risk of bias, since most authors these days have to pay for the open access, that it's biasing towards researchers who are heavily funded as opposed to necessarily quality work?
That's a concern. Yeah, that's a valid concern. Now, many of the journals, like the AGU journals, would waive publication fees if, say, there is a real need and the science is judged to be important. Like my journal, I actually have a budget to allow authors, say, publish papers for
To
free.
waive the fee.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, Chris.
So you showed the trend. What do you think the future is for how this is all going to get paid for? Obviously, we all want open access, but is it going to? And I know that the different journals are struggling with how they're going to stay solvent in this changing world, where, for example, libraries may not want to
Subscribe. Yeah.
I know some publishers are trying to bundle all their publications together and making libraries subscribe to all of them. And anyway, so how do you see things playing out over the next 10 years or so?
I think the burden is going to be shifted more toward the authors. That's one, and eventually it's the funding agencies or foundations. Then on the other hand, say the technology may streamline the process, therefore reduce the actual cost of publication. But there is no way to have completely free publication, because you can see the editorial staff working really around the clock to get reviews, to do quality check, to get credentials of the reviews. And I can tell you some horror stories now that I work constantly on the journals. There was one journal, like many other journals, that encourages the authors to recommend referees. And there were authors who recommended well-known people for referees, but they put an email address directing to themselves. And so without the diligence, of the editorial staff, you cannot be certain about the quality of the review. And so this affect says also the readers, but on a larger scale, it could be fake science, right? That could do real damage. Yes, Nori.
Stony Brook University now has a new open access policy as well, where we can publish all our accepted publications directly, or make them open access at Stony Brook University. And if there is an embargo, we can also publish the accepted version before revisions.
So that's the kind of green road. And people tend to do that. The publishers typically don't go after you if you just download the paper and post publicly. So there is no set rule, but that's another way to have the paper open access. Yes, Jim.
But Minghua, an additional example of that, though, there's a kind of a social network for scientists called ResearchGate that many scientists upload some of their papers on, some of which are still under copyright. And so ResearchGate has now been sued by a number of traditional science publishers. So that's an interface of where the battle is right now.
True. So with open access, there is also language about copyright. It's the so-called creative license where you can use, distribute freely. So that's really good. Yeah, but there are these caveats regarding copyright. Yeah, Murat.
Well, why journals are so stubborn and still make paper copy? Why not just print it and stop it? That would reduce costs substantially.
Yeah. It's the subscribers. Some of these subscribers wanted a hard copy, but I think eventually this would be phased out. There is no reason to have the hard copy. Yeah. Thank you.
It's always hard to tell your boss that it's time to cut it off.